This morning we have a sort of continuation of last week because it is concerned with the problem as to whether the various emotions and mental attitudes that are traditional to human beings are part of an archetypal plan. Whether when we refer to wisdom, we are referring not only to the knowledge that we have in this world, but to an essential principle of wisdom that exists always everywhere. We say the same thing of love. Whether love is a peculiar situation involving certain species only, but we are told definitely in the sacred scriptures that God loves man, just as man loves God. And love becomes a universal emotion based in great archetypal patterns. Now these great patterns are subject gradually to modification, not by the lawgivers, but by the law receivers. Humanity evolving on this planet begins to modify the essential rules of the planet. In other words, we try to gradually take over domination of the earth we live on. We are not satisfied to live here and enjoy it if possible, and live comfortably and pleasantly and wisely. We have to dominate it. We have to control it. We have to do something to become master of our environment. And the moment this begins, trouble begins. Because that's not the way that it was intended. The way was that we were given a beautiful garden to take care of. And we got the garden, but we're not taking care of it. We're despoiling it by our own ambitions. We are determined to take this garden into a great factory, or a great archaeological institution, or perhaps to make it into some kind of a subdivision project. We are taking over this thing we call the earth and trying to run it ourselves. And this is a fundamental mistake. Because there's only one thing in the world that knows what to do with it and how to run it, and that is the person who installed the garden. And in this case, the garden was fashioned by the will and wisdom of God. Therefore, the more we try to control it, the more we break the basic rules of human relationship. We try to exercise our own temporal authority. We decide how much a square foot we can get for this garden. We do all kinds of things to make more profit off of the garden. And instead of taking care of it, we are despoiling it. Instead of enriching the purpose of it, we are reducing the efficiency and the beauty of the world in which we live. This has been going on for a long time. It wasn't too very serious at the beginning because there were not too many people. But gradually as population increases, as ambition increases, as wealth increases, and as all the various attitudes of human beings take precedence over natural law, we get into more and more trouble. We are gradually destroying the garden that we were given. And we find in the old books relating to the Old Testament, old charts and manuscripts and texts and pictures of the Garden of Eden. Well, it's a little bit literal, we'll admit. The garden didn't look just like that. It didn't have a fence around it, and it didn't have an iron gate and things like that. But this garden represented actually nature itself, the world into which we were placed to become guardians and gardeners. It was hoped that we would contribute to the growth of everything here, that with a wisdom greater than the nature around us, we would contribute to the beauty and truth of nature. Instead of that, we have used our excellent skills to despoil nature, to reduce its value, to make everything serve our purpose. We do not remember now much about what happens to animals and what happens to plants and flowers and even minerals in the earth. Everything that exists is for our benefit. We use it as we please. We despoil it as we please. And gradually get ourselves into a very serious dilemma. We are not obeying the simple rules of life. We are not doing the things we should do. we are assuming that we were born to own and manage this earth. We were not to be gardeners as the Lord intended. We were to be profiteers and real estate developers. We were to do it our way and to gain all the profit we could from each transaction. Well, in the early times when there was lots of earth and very few people, this did not seem to make much difference. But gradually it has become vital, because we are gradually losing fact of our responsibility to the garden. We are no longer remembering that we are here by the grace of God. We are no longer aware of the fact that to be born into this world is not to have opportunity, but also to assume responsibility. We must pay for the things we do. We must pay for the mistakes we make. We must restore that which we destroy. But in our haste and in our self-centeredness, we have forgotten all about that. Now, this has to do with beauty, is very definite, but not immediately noticeable. Actually, all things in the world, in their proper relationships, combine to form cosmic beauty. Beauty is the rightness of things. It is each thing fulfilling itself in a cooperation with all other things. It is individual, living his life in peace with all other human beings with lives. To maintain the garden, we've got to learn to live with our neighbors. And the neighbors now are nations and countries and states and cities. But they are all properly entitled to their participation in this wonderful allotment of opportunity and privilege that has been given to us. But in our own self-centeredness, we are not interested in what other people are entitled to. We are interested only in that which we want. And out of our infinite desire has come an infinite pain, a continuing difficulty that gets worse as it goes along. Then we realize the reason when the good book says, vanity, vanity, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. So saith the preacher. Well, the vanity and the difficulties are definitely with us at the moment. We take it for granted that we were born to run the planet. We were born to explore the planet. And we were born with all kinds of rights and privileges that are inalienable, no matter whether they're right or wrong. But we've come against a little problem. The custodians of the great investigating system has always been scientists. Well, today scientists are in trouble too. There are many things they want to know and can know if they want to really badly enough, but they are also stuck in a situation that is unrealistic. They talk about materialism. They take it for granted that man is the creator of everything that he does, and he is the originator of everything that is worthwhile, and he was predestined and foreordained to run the planet. Well, he's had an opportunity. Many people have had opportunities to control, delegate, dictate various areas of the earth. And they've all come to trouble. And the final trouble has been nuclear fission, with which we have hoped to bring peace, but which obviously is not the way to achieve peace. Therefore, we are finding that everything we do to improve our own percentages, everything is achieved at the cost of the primary integrity. And we call that basic integrity beauty. Beauty in this case is organization. It is the fact that all parts work together in harmony. Beauty is because of the petals of the flower, all uniting to make a beautiful blossom. Beauty is the odor and perfume of the flower. All kinds of things that fulfill themselves reveal other phases of beauty. There is the beauty of the flower, the beauty of the rocks and mountains, the beauties of the sunset and the sunrise. Everywhere in nature there is a great beauty, and everywhere it exists, man is seemingly determined to exterminate it. He is determined that these various natural blessings that we have received shall not interfere with the painful duty of adding up a bank account. So we are living in a man-made world, in a God-made universe, and it causes certain inconsistencies. And these inconsistencies will get worse as long as we determine to do everything our way. There must be some other answer to this. We must realize that we are not the owners of the earth. We don't even have a first mortgage on it. We are here by the grace of God. We are here because evolution is working out a pattern through us. We are here because we have intelligence enough from the past to do something constructive at the moment. But unfortunately, selfishness has taken over. The opportunity to exploit has outdistanced the possibility of cooperation and mutual virtue and helpfulness. So here we are with this problem of beauty in our hands. Now, how do we estimate beauty? What is beautiful? Well, beautiful is the normalcy of things. Things that not disturbed by artificial circumstances naturally fall into orderly sequences. We may not always agree with them, but on the other hand, nature doesn't always agree with us either. And when it disagrees with us, we have serious mishaps. But in actual fact, that beauty is the thing as it should be, as it was predestined to be, and deformity is what happens when man takes over and tries to improve on the divine plan. Improving not to make the plan better, but to make himself richer off of the plan. So we have now this situation of a planet that in its natural structure is the Garden of Eden. The planet is the world that was given to us to be beautiful, that we might replenish the earth, that we might do all the good things that need doing. We were given everything necessary for survival and for growth, and we even were given in the old days, we are told, that the angel Ratziel came to us and began to open a school for the education of souls, long before humanity developed. Everything was to be done with compactness and with cooperation and with diligence and with love. So we gradually found ways of getting around this. And gradually it has become a very serious situation. We are destroying the earth under our feet. We are destroying that which was provided for our use. We are destroying it by our abuse. And we are getting further and further into a debt against nature, which we can't pay, which we know not what to do about, but which is continuously adding to our miseries and disappointments. Now if we say what beauty, you know there is more than one kind of beauty. There is the beauty of a flower, and there is the beauty of a mountain. Both are beautiful. Each is different. So in this world, there are all kinds of beauties. But beauty in itself as a principle is a method of unfolding existing life according to divine law. Beauty is the unfolding of everything according to its own proper nature. It is the fulfillment of the need and wisdom of the Creator. The flower is the fruit of the seed, and the flower in turn becomes the source of further seed. Every flower is beautiful, even though we may not like all of them. But everything that exists is a wonder, a miracle, an unbelievable circumstance. Science realizes this, but simply does not accept the fact that it is explainable. They must continue to dig out all those secrets of the material world. But beauty does not begin in the material world, and it does not end there. Beauty is the unfolding of a divine plan. It is the motion of all things toward the fulfillment of themselves and of the plan to which they belong. Beauty is everywhere present, and in things that we would never expect it to be found. For example, we always will think of beauty in terms of something that we consider as artistic or as well and properly conformed. But it's not necessarily true. Their beauty is in all things the fulfillment of themselves. The beauty of the flower is found again in the beauty of the seed. Everything is part of some great plan. And I think I might mention one of my great beloved grandmother's truth-ism, she said, referring to people, this was her own discovery apparently, that there were three kinds of beauty. There is the beauty of youth, which is quite easily recognized, and everyone is very jealous about it. There is beauty of maturity, which is just as great and just as wonderful as that of youth. And there is beauty of distinction, the older people. An elderly person who is fulfilling the law is just as beautiful in the eyes of nature and of God as the debutante out on her first date. Beauty is the fulfillment of the thing as it is, for it carries with it advantages. It cuts off something less to give something greater. It brings depth of inner life to take the place of the breadth of outer life. Everything in nature is fulfilling a pattern which is ending in beauty, began in beauty, and grows through beauty. This we are forgetting. We've ignored it. We don't believe it anymore. We do not realize the fact that things have their own beauty, and that we cannot judge them instantly and eternally by our own personal appreciation. Each individual has his likes and dislikes, and to him the things he does not like are not beautiful. To his neighbor, the things he likes are not beautiful. Beauty, however, is not just in the eye of the beholder. Beauty is a principle. It is the thing growing and fulfilling according to its own law, not according to some man-made statutes. A beautiful garden is one that fulfills the desire of the person creating the garden. And if that garden is properly developed, other people will admire it. If it is a strange and crude thing, only the Creator will admire it. But there will always be a fulfillment of some kind. And you study the nature and structure of living things. Study the structure and habits of animals, of all kinds of creatures. Study all phases of minerals, and you will find that in every department of life there is an excellence. There is something that tells that this is the way it grows. This is the way it becomes more. This is the way it fulfills its destiny. And in doing these things, there is a strange and wonderful beauty in the processes. And it's the loss of realization of the beauty of process that has brought us much of our discomfort and disheartedness. We do not acknowledge or recognize that growth in itself is beautiful. We have the conservative individual who would die rather than grow. That individual is missing, losing, failing to understand the wonder, the beauty, the transcendency of the gradual unfoldment of life from its own source into its own circumference. We are constantly in the presence of growth. Sometimes we don't like the growth. Sometimes it's a weed in the garden and we cut it down. But in nature, all these things are part of a great unfoldment, something that is going on forever in the history and development of planets and suns and moons and stars. It is all a tremendous project. And at the beginning and at the source of this project is an eternal power. Science is not able to determine what that power is, more or less has given up the hope. It has told us frankly that the nature of first cause is beyond human understanding. That is probably true. But there is within the human being also a participation in that divine cause. We are here because of that same divine cause. All things are here to fulfill the great laws of fulfillment. And when each part of that pattern begins to differentiate and go its own way, there is a great discord that comes in and takes over. The same way with music. There is a wonderful harmony. Music is not just a series of noises. Music is the way by which, as Pythagoras said, the music of the spheres, by means of which the universe was brought forth into manifestation. And Goethe, in the prologue to Faust, tells us of the songs of the angels, that were songs that were sung around the throne of the Almighty. All these things were beautiful. Creation was a magnificent and beautiful process. And the created things were given every opportunity and every privilege to advance the eternal beauty of life. And somewhere along the line we've lost track of that beauty of life. We have gradually locked ourselves into a very inferior circumstance. So let's go back a little bit and see if we can see how this all came about. We look back into the archaeological records of humanity, and we find primitive people wandering around the earth, armed with a stone axe and struggling for territorial allotment, similar to that of animals. These creatures were very few in number at that time. There was plenty of planet for all of them. But in most cases they sort of huddled and fought with each other. Little by little, this early beginning of things resulted in the rise of tribes and clans and things of that nature. And these tribes and clans were mostly competitive. They each wanted the best hole in the wall. Each wanted the best spring in the earth. All of these things led to struggle. The stone axe became the spear and the bow and arrow, and humanity locked in eternal conflict with itself. Locked in a conflict for what? For the possession of something that no human being can ever own. There is no one in the entire history of mankind that can ever own the earth. Because no matter what it happens, how many years the conquest comes, it is not man who owns the earth, but the earth that claims man back into a grave. There is no way in which man can control the earth, because he has not the insights, he has not the skill, and he has not the wisdom, and the creative process does not permit him to succeed. So year after year the conquerors have come forth. Year after year and century after century they have died, trying desperately to control this little ball in space, but unable to do so. Because there is no principle at work in the fashioning of things that man can dominate. Man can affect these things. If he finds a truth and lives by it, he has a great satisfaction within himself. If he finds an error and lives by that, he finds a great dissatisfaction in himself. And around the whole business, construction and destruction, is the strange gray wall of the grave. All these things come forth and go back again as they were. And in the quietude of beginnings and the solitudes of ends, there is a mysterious way of heaven working through all things. The Chinese referred to these great laws as the way of heaven, as the will of the infinite, and that all things that want peace, security, and happiness must first of all keep the rules. And the rules have been set down in various religious documents of antiquity. In China, in India, in Greece, in Rome, in the Holy Land, all over, the rules of this great pattern have been revealed to us. These rules are the commandments, the Beatitudes, everything that we know in our own faith. We are told what is right. We are told what we should be doing. We are told that which will maintain peace, and peace is beauty. Peace is all forms of life, forming together a magnificent pattern, not all exactly alike, but all cooperating to make a great design come true, to bring forth a world in which all good things are abundant until man destroys them. So out of all these early problems and so forth, there comes the realization that we are predestined and foreordained to struggle the way we do until we wake up to the facts. Now, the fact in all of these cases is beauty. Now, not being able to be satisfied with the beauties that nature bestows, and they are very beautiful, there is no really reason for discontent. The individual, the races and nations have tried to create beauty of themselves. They have tried to fashion a beauty commensurate with their feelings and abilities and in harmony with their ambitions and their prejudices and all the different emotions that make up human nature. Therefore, we have what we call now a kind of beauty which is not real, but which has gradually gained in importance. As the vanishing beauties of nature disappear, man tries to create artificial beauty. He tries to make up for that which he is tearing down. Now in the human being, the beauties of nature are richly given, but we find them difficult to maintain. So first thing you know, we begin to artificially beautify ourselves. Some of the natives in one country put rings in their noses to do it. Another one tattoos their faces. A third one stretches their necks with rings. Everyone tries to find some way to be beautiful. And the more they try, the worse they look. And this will continue. But when they get themselves into one of these difficult situations, unpleasant looking and all, they suddenly become a standard of elegance for the tribe to which they belong. The neighbor thinks they're wonderful and tries to get a longer neck or a bigger ring. All of these things tell us of the competition for the creation of beauty. And yet beauty cannot be created in that way. Beauty was there before they got to work destroying it. The nose ring and the earrings and the tattoos and the various scarifications that were considered symbols of elegance were not symbols of anything. They were simply primitive competition to be more elegant than somebody else. And the elegance, when it was achieved, was really a distortion. The individual who became what he thought was a standard of elegance really became a creature who had destroyed the beauty of his own nature. So we find all around people trying to do things to make beauty for themselves because they have lost the real beauty. Another way they have tried to do it is to build cities. And now we're beginning to realize that of all the absurdities, the city is probably the greatest. There is nothing really to be said in favor of it. There's nothing to be said of its contribution to growth or wisdom or happiness. It has become a tremendous center of congestion. And every once in a while we get an earthquake or something and it tears down one of these great cities. The human pattern was not that we should build these great monuments in this world. They are useless, and they are destructive of everything that we need. But why do we build them? Because we have another standard of beauty. We have the standard of beauty in wealth. By wealth we can have anything we want, we can look any way we want to, we'll dress any way we want to, we can possess everything we want to. Many times we don't want anything. It's a total loss. In other cases, we gradually, through the accumulation of wealth, destroy ourselves through expenditures and absurdities. Sometimes wealth gives us the privilege of maintaining low standards of living that otherwise we wouldn't be able to maintain. So all this is nothing. And not one of these things that the wealth brings to us can we take beyond the grave. And the grave is some kind of an attitude or a situation that becomes the test of life. If anything, as the Buddha tells us, that we can't take with us when we go should never cause us great trouble while we live. If we can't take it with us, don't work too hard on it. Just do things in a natural, simple way. All of the great ambitions have led to war and pillage, murder, rape, and carnage. The great beauty of life was in its peace. Now in various countries of the world, including the Near East, America, Asia, and Africa, and even the islands of the ocean, there have been some who have become aware of the fallacy of distortion. They're aware that the various arts and sciences which we develop in desperation and sustained by means of narcotics or alcohol are scarcely worth the trouble to maintain them. We find that all around we are trying to create false beauty. We are taking the beauty out of music and resulting in a hard rock kind of concert. We are taking the beauty out of art by the so-called distortions of modernism. We are taking the beauty out of the real things because we don't understand them. We can't rise to the truly beautiful, so we maintain a standard of lower beauty, which is nothing but another name for distortion. So all the way along, we lose the fact lose the great principle of natural integrity. And as this integrity gets poorer and poorer, the civilization gets weaker and weaker, and little by little corrupts and destroys from within itself. So we would like to think of the ideals of simple living. Simplicity is the only answer. Simplicity is the individual not worrying so much about what he has, but giving a lot more consideration to what he is. No matter how much you dress up the fool, he is still no wiser. And it is much better for us to recognize that there is a moderate way of life by means of which we can accomplish both for ourselves and for our world. It isn't necessary to renounce civilization or give up the arts and sciences. It is only necessary to use them properly, to wisely understand them, recognize their limitations, and transcend the areas of consciousness which they cannot reach at all. So we have now, we may term philosophy. And philosophy is a large word. It means all kinds of things. It means everything from deism to existentialism. But philosophy is to think about the problems of existence. The philosopher is a person who has the courage to estimate and to check and to examine the results of his own actions. The philosopher is one not who goes out to preach to others how to live, but who explores the mysteries of his own life and finds the ways in which he can correct the errors which have dominated his personal integrity. So we have various schools of mysticism, religion, philosophy, art, everything you can imagine, trying to find answers to the problem of the human disaster, which we are suffering from at the present time. And the disaster seems to be, one of the forms of it, is the breaking up of the one planet into a vast number of different colored celluloid areas, each with flags and banners and battlements. We have taken the earth and divided. We have divided it in any way that seemed advantageous. We have produced the great conquerors, Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Napoleon, Alexander, Caesar, and we have their story. In our educational system, we know what happened to all of them. All of them went out to become masters of the world, and all of them ended in 6 square feet of earth. Nothing survived. They were conquerors for a day, but they were in a universe where forever always wins, and forever is always in the term of truth. So that while we are making all kinds of distorted things, the universal pattern is asking us for beauty. It is telling us that the only solution that we have are the beauties, moral, ethical, and psychological, that have been part of the composition from which we were fashioned. We have beauties in every field. Beauties are order, peace, and constructiveness. There is no beauty in distortion. There is no beauty in corruption. There is beauty always in the unfoldment of the potential of the human being himself. Most people today are more locked than they ever were in history. They are locked in a materialism which is forced upon them by the economic policies of their associates. They are forced into situations that are not natural to them. And they are forced to compromise the principles that are close to them. Now, there are ways in which these compromises can be modified, however. It is not necessary for the average citizen to cultivate unreasonable ambitions. There is no reason why any person should demand a way of life which in the end is going to destroy him. He does not need to give his whole life to something that he can't take with us and has nothing really in it of value to him. It all also rises in another point. If beauty is essential, if beauty is, as the ancients believed, an immortal spirit, if beauty is a deity or a principle that is ineffable and inevitable, then the development of that principle is a major undertaking in life, one of the most perfect projects we can possibly attempt. Now in that it has many different departments. A good home is a beauty. A beautiful home in which those who live in it love each other, care for each other, and protect each other, and place the common good above the advantage of the individual. A beautiful home is one of the great beauties of the world. A beautiful school where we can learn all that is necessary to learn without political corruption. A beautiful garden in which we can grow our own food, or which we can decorate with our own flowers. These are beauties. To go out sometime and sit on the side of a hill, like Lhotse, and gaze upon the sunrise and the sunset. When you do this, we look upon something that is greater than ourselves. We look upon something we cannot create, we cannot destroy it. It will go on long after we are gone, just as it was here long before we came. But to sit quietly in the beauty of the sunset, and to see the marvels that nature has bestowed, the wonders of a world uncontaminated by man, and then look down into the smoke-filled valley with all of its problems, with the problems of various diseases, the problems of congestion and smog and adulteration of elements and everything of this nature. We look down on this and we see that this is man's creation. We look back up at the stars and there is no evil there. There is nothing in the twinkling heavens that warns us of our own misfortune, because the misfortune does not come from there. It comes from a tempest in a teapot, or perhaps better to say, a tempest in a molehill. On this little planet which we have here, we are making an inferno for ourselves. We are going continuously on the way with the concept that if we suffer enough, we will come in the end to glory. We will never come to glory by anything that causes this real basic suffering of morality and ethics in order to get there. We will only get to what we deserve, and we want to restore again the beauties of the life we know. One of the great mystics in our civilization, Jacob Boehme, the German shoemaker, was a man who never was richer than a merchant. He made shoes, and he made good shoes. And while he was making shoes, his mind and heart were yearnings for an understanding of the larger world. And one day a vision came to him. A vision of the universe as it really looked. He saw the curtain of the sky spread apart, and there an infinite power going on and on and on through all the orders of planets and stars and galaxies. He saw an infinite world of infinite beauty closed to us by the curtain of our own unbelieving and our own misuses. And Boehme, they settled down very quietly. He never became an important person. He was ostracized by the Lutheran minister of his church. And one day, this minister was so mad at him that he threw his shoes at Boehme on an argument. Quietly, the shoemaker picked up the shoes and laid them side by side by the chair of the old preacher. There was never any anger, never any hatred, never any question. Boehme lived in a world in which he saw a peace above things. He saw an infinite universe of good dominated temporarily by a tiny little group of self-centered people who did not know what they were doing. So he was perfectly satisfied to know that he was part of something that was indestructible. That all the things that he dreamed of, all the hopes that he had for humanity were attainable. All he had to do was to wait and live and dream and do the things day by day which would enrich the world and enrich his own soul. So we have all over the world saints and hermits, mystics, who have done everything they know to bring peace and happiness to a troubled world. We have them today. They know perhaps wiser than science what is necessary to save science. They know more than perhaps some of the theologies that are still locked in old concepts of sectarianism. They have not yet discovered the one faith, which is the beauty, the truth. They have not realized that the great decalogue of laws governing existence or the beauty of magnificent bouquet of flowers, tied with the strings of human seeking and searching. Everywhere, everything that is real is beautiful. And when beauty fails in anything, that thing is no longer good. So we have to try to live to find these powers. We have to try to get away from the idea that we can gain all that we want by outside extravagance. We have to realize that we can't put enough cosmetic on our faces to take the place of an intelligent life. That if real beauty is something that shines through, in the course of nearly 90 years, 88 or something like that, I have met many people of many kinds. I have met elderly people who were like lights in the sky, beautiful, radiant creatures, never aware of any limitation, at peace with themselves and at peace with God. And I have met young and handsome people crippled by their own unbeliefs, struggling against hatred, against competition, against domestic tragedy, everywhere suffering that was due largely to the breaking of the rules. And there is occasionally the one shining light of peace, where the rules have been kept, and a gentle life moves through the various courses of its years. Now, another problem that brings science into this reason is science has no idea whatever is what's going to happen if we don't stay here. It doesn't know a thing about the idea of anything beyond the grave. Science takes it for granted that all there is of life is here, in this life. And if there's any immortality, it is only carried on through our children and their children. Therefore, we are told that there's nothing here but now, and no life beyond that. And I think Socrates probably had the best answer to that one. When he was taking the hemlock, took him out of life, executed by the state, because of the fact he was corrupting young minds. Today we consider him as one of the most incorruptible minds that ever lived. But anyway, Socrates told his disciples, who were gathered sorrowing with him, "Don't sorrow for me. When I leave here, one of two things will happen. One thing will be that I will cease, utterly and completely, and there will be no more Socrates. And there will be no one to remember Socrates. And Socrates will not remember Socrates. All will be over. Or, as an alternative, I may discover that there is a world beyond this one, better than any world I know here. That in that world I can commune with the wise. I can come into the presence of the divine. I can find answers to all the questions I've asked through the years. Either I go to sleep forever, or I awaken from the dream of death into a greater universe than I have ever known." And with that he quietly departed. Well, one thing that's very important about that, and that is the thing we face today. We have one side that wants to make it all materialistic. Now, is there anything beauty in that materialism? If we're going to go down to darkness and be nothing but names on monuments, is there any particular joy in life, any fulfillment of anything? We cut down in the height of our doing. Whether we did it well or did it badly, who cares? Whether we live to long years or are cut down by cocaine, what difference does it make? But this point of view is deadly to the survival of society. If there is nothing beyond our own mistakes, then there is nothing. And very few people will live or can live with that conviction. They have to have some answer. If they have lived this reasonable or unreasonable existence for 3 or 4 score years, there has to be something. If they're going down to nothing, then there is no reason why they've ever lived. There's no reason why some have been great and some have been humble, for it all comes down to vacuum. But if there is something else, if from this sleep of death a dawn does come, if all that we have struggled for, and all we have worked with, and all we have wept over, and all we have found as pain within our hearts, if all this adds up to a great and wonderful reality that is worth all that it has ever cost, is more than we could ever hope for in a universe too large for us to even measure. If all these things work together for an infinite good, then we have some reason to try to do better now. We have some reason to keep the rules in the hope that somewhere in the fullness of time those rules will keep us. And experience with these patterns and with people indicates clearly and definitely that those who have no belief in anything better than competition live poorly and die badly, whereas those who do believe that there is something worthwhile, there is a fullness that can be measured, have a much better life here, and certainly die with a better hope. So beauty comes in to frame another problem. What is a beautiful life? A beautiful life is not constantly taking advantage of somebody else. A beautiful life is not outwitting your adversary, breaking a home, neglecting children, destroying the environment, and declaring war upon people whom you don't even know. All these things are part of a mistake, and as long as we keep this mistake going, we will suffer from it. But it is perfectly possible for the individual himself, even in this stage of his evolution, to wish for a moment's peace, to hope that sometime there will be something kind, something gentle, something loving, something wise, that this battle will not go on until one by one all the natural resources of the planet are exhausted. The individual must make these decisions himself. The laws of nations will never do it. But there is above the law of nations the law of God. And this law of God has been variously interpreted and misinterpreted by the scriptures of the world. But right or wrong, there is a law of God. There is a law of realities. And there is a discipline that must be kept to fulfill the desires and hopes of intelligent and consecrated people. So there is reason to believe and to hope that the worst that can happen, whether we are good or bad, is that if we are bad, we miss the chance of immortality. And if we are good, we escape from the chains of mortality. And if that is true, then the universe becomes a moral entity. It becomes a being or creature that is good. And in laws and nature, in conflicts and dissension, in all the problems and responsibilities of statesmanship, truth is beautiful. Truth is the thing that must live. Truth must be kind, it must be wise, it must be loving, and it must be filled with a determination to grow, to transform all antagonisms into relationships that are commendable and can be carried on. I have known a number of people who have been destroyed by their own antagonism. They've had bad lives, not because anybody declared them to have a bad life, but because the decisions they made in every point of view were self-centered, critical of others, condemnatory of life, and without understanding or without justifying the divine plan. These people, therefore, do not have a good life, but they still have to go and find it out. And the nature of the infinite in its fulfillment has given us the inevitable hope of ultimate realization. That every time we make a good decision, growth develops within ourselves. We are a little wiser, a little kinder, and a little more beautiful in our relationships. And little by little, the beauty of our inner lives becomes a garment, a magnificent robe, a robe of virtues. Little by little, we do not need the dangles and ornaments of materiality, because we are beautifully vested in our own integrity. We are the kindly, loving people who are always needed, to whom all can turn in trouble, but whom many will not be able to achieve in their own lives. So we can do a lot of things, and in doing them, we help to make beauty what it really is. Beauty is also in the most common thing. Laozi, the Chinese philosopher, was a child of a gardener on the estate of a great mandarin. He had no advantages and no education, but he used to sit on the side of a hill and look out across the valley to the mountains beyond. And day by day and month by month and year by year, he sat and looked at the mountains. He looked at the sky and he looked at the earth, and he saw an infinite beauty. He saw that the mountains, while if you analyze them might seem to be pretty terrible, really is part of a wonderful scene, a scene of life. And little by little it grows upon him that a human being is very much like the view of a mountain. He views his own inner life, and he sees distances and peaks and valleys. But he also sees a beautiful kind of peace that comes over all these valleys, the mists and fogs that gather around the peaks of mountains. He sees all these things in his views, and then he sees beyond this, as Laozi did, into the mysteries of the desert of Gobi, the mysterious sand of death, the black sand that seems as though it goes on forever. And his soul went out into the black sands of Gobi. And as he went out there, something happened. In his mind's eye, he saw a beautiful city rising out of the sands of Gobi. He saw that in that city were all the beauties of life, and in the midst of the desert of waiting, there is a great city of fulfillment. One is the city of God, as St. Augustine, and the other is the city of Babylon. Out of the darkness of the shadows of things, Laozi saw the homes of the immortals, the beautiful gardens, the beautiful mountains, the things that to him seemed first dim and dark and distant, suddenly were filled with light, and he saw that every grain of sand was part of an immortal beauty. So, little by little, he labored. He tried very hard to teach what he found. But no one would listen. Not then, although later millions have listened. But in full time he gave up, and he sat on the back of an old blue water buffalo, one of the bluish-black color. And he walked out on or rode out on this animal through the great gates of China into the deserts of Shamo, into the great Gobi, and finally found and was one forever with the great city of the immortals. These are fables and so forth, but they are fables about life. The city of the immortals does exist. It has always existed, because whether we know it or not, man isn't the top of creation. There are things that are done better than he is, and longer time to do it. Ages and ages have come. In the book of Genesis, the Lord says to Adam, "Be fruitful and replenish the earth." And in the Indian philosophy it says that the Great Mother, the planet, has shaken countless civilizations from her back. Everywhere there are things that grow and things that lose track of growth. There are things that go bad and slowly fade away. There are things that go right and go on. We are at this time in one of those critical periods in the history of our culture, when it is very important for us to do something right, to make moves and changes that will be productive. And one of the ways to do it, it seems to me, is to simply use a code of beauty. Is it beautiful? Are my words beautiful? Are my thoughts beautiful? If I'm giving advice, is my advice the advice of heaven? If I look out to see what kind of a world we should build, then I look out into the stars and see the great shadows of universes far vaster than ours. We live in the midst of an eternal life, and that eternal life is bathed forever in eternal beauty. Everything is as it is right. Everything that is proper and is maintained is beautiful. The moment we disagree, the moment we turn away, the moment let war and politics come in, the moment our religions become sectarian, the moment our arts become materialistic, our music corrupt. All of these things are losses of beauty. And with the death of beauty lies all things. Because beauty is another name for right, for the thing as it should be and it must be. It is that which tells us that anything that is not for the common good contributes to the common suffering. That there is no way in which a superficial rejection of the responsibility of a good life can be accepted as appropriate. There is no way in which weakness can be glorified except by being outgrown. Weakness generally comes to pain. Pain is a great test. If weakness is able to survive the test and straighten its own way, then beauty comes back. And everywhere we see people on the outside trying to be beautiful. We see people trying to be beautiful by their benevolences, trying to be beautiful by the ostentation of their living, trying to be beautiful by their achievements in art and letters, trying to be beautiful in drama, music, all these things, or become beautiful in wisdom through scholarship, or beautiful in religion through sanctification. There are people everywhere trying to be better, trying to be beautiful. And it is this that must come. Now, beautiful in this case is exactly what it says. There can be and must be an end of all dissension, whether it is private or public. If a thing needs corruption, it is sick. It needs a physician, not a judge. If the individual rejects all help, then all that can be done is to make things as quiet as possible and let the eternal beauty finally come in. Sometimes this final beauty may be more than the individual can stand. For the moment he may be beyond his depth. But the beauty of eternity is also the great healer. The most perfect of all medicines is beauty. And the most perfect of all religions is the recognition of divine beauty. And the greatest of all sociology is recognition of the beauty of the brotherhood of all that lives. These things are the law. They are the way they should be. They are the way they must be, or there is no answer. There is no way in which discord and dissension and evil can take over the earth. Evil and discord and contention go to sleep in the graves. They lie forever in the dust. And always the world goes on, striving, seeking, struggling to find the peace that surpasseth understanding. And the only way they can find that peace is through the development of the recognition of the divine beauty of things. The divine beauty of the flower, of the bird, the divine beauty of the little rabbit, the divine beauty that children find in a toy, the divine beauty that we find in the consolation that comes through friendship and affection. These things are part of life. Love is building a better world. Hate is tearing it down. All the various conflicts of existence are betraying the divine plan. Every army that goes forth, conquering and to conquer, is one of the riders of death in the vision of the revelation of John. All of them are those that ride forth to demolish the earth. But the blessed is the peacemaker. And in these things we have to realize that peace is beauty. Peace is a beautiful garden where everything is gentle. Peace is a beautiful view where the mountains and the sky mingle in fraternity. Peace is a lovely home where the members dwell together in amity and affection. Peace brings with it hope, and with realization the courage to go on. And today, one of the things that we all need is to recognize the truth as it is, and then quietly apply it. If we hate evil, we simply create discord. If we try generously and thoughtfully to see good in all things, and help and to encourage the development of values, being ready to forgive the enemy, but never to forgive a shortcoming of our own which we know better than to have. So little by little, the beauty of life can come. And maybe someday again we'll have a Garden of Eden, where people and all things will work together in peace and harmony and understanding. And the Lord Himself shall walk in that garden in the cool of the evening. This is what we've got to dream about. We can't dream about the politics and the struggle. We can only dream about an eternal beauty in which we exist, and which will come back to us if we think about it and live for it. This beauty is not dead, but we are choking it to death with our conflicts and our discoveries of evil. We must find again the final beauty which we find in the child's eyes of the newborn, the beauty in the eyes of the mother when she gazes upon her baby for the first time, the beauty in the eyes of the elder who, lying on the virtue on the edge of eternity, looks with wide open eyes to a beautiful vision beyond the grave. All of the beauties of life must be strengthened. And if we strengthen those, that which is not beautiful will fade away. Because that which is right cannot fade, and that which is wrong cannot survive. And each person in his own abilities has the right and the privilege to contribute to the eternity of good and rise majestically in his own inner life above the transities of unhappiness and misery, so that we can be as we should have been, again, children in the garden of God, and not a group of angry and meddling people trying to destroy each other. Because this world is actually, as Christ says, let the children come, because the kingdom of heaven is such as these. And children have a great imagination. They see beauty in everything. The wise have a great imagination also, for they discover what has been seen by the children is true, and that all the other negative things are part of ignorance. And there comes beauty into education, but that's another subject. Actually, we are concerned now primarily with the realization that the simple act of beautification of daily conduct can be a very great help to solve the problems of the day. Because this beauty must be founded in integrity and in dedication and in a realization of the divine plan under which we all exist and by which we shall all be glorified in due time. Thank you.